Hello and welcome to the Rev It Up podcast, helping entrepreneurs fill up their tanks, crank up the RPMs, and put the pedal to the metal until they cross that finish line. Hello, I'm Jess Tiffany. Ready, set, go. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Super excited to have Bill Dolan with us today. He's an Emmy-nominated TV and video director with over 10,000 productions. Holy smokes, that's a lot. And author, speaker, and his current book, as you can see in the background, if you're on video, The 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing, 7DRM. So welcome to the show, Bill.
Thanks, Jess. It's great to see you.
Awesome. So curious about, obviously I was reading a little bit about you, and it says you died, and then that led to this amazing book that you wrote.
Well, yeah, that usually tends to be the first thing people want to know about is, heck, you died. It's one of those unique elements about my life. And I can just tell you, the short version is this. It was so incredible. I wish everybody could die and then come back, because it would change your life, totally change your life. And you're right. It changed my life in the fact that, I've worked in the TV, the entertainment, the marketing space for many, many, many years. The one thing about being in that space is it's fun, it's exciting, it's invigorating, it's cool. And it's a great chase. It's a constant chase. It's a chase for ratings. It's a chase for eyeballs, which, by the way, I would say is the new currency. More important than dollars are eyeballs. And because we now have business models that can turn eyeballs into large sums of cash, if that is the desire, you want. And that's one of the things that you see is that chase for eyeballs. In our case, the chase for ratings, because if we got ratings, that means people watched our product. I could sell that to advertisers, and advertisers would pay us sums of money proportional to the eyeballs we delivered. It's a traditional business model. It's an understandable business model. But after my death experience, it was abundantly clear that I had spent the better part of my life trying to score the transaction, score the deal. Ultimately, and we made good money doing it. But after my death and then coming back, I realized that while the transactions are necessary, they're necessary to conduct business, the greatest thing that I can deliver in this world is not what goes into my account, but what I deposit into the accounts of others. And that's transformation. And so I don't dismiss transactions, but I recognize the power of changing my life in our structures, in our business structures, in ways that our life 24/7, not just from 9 to 5, but every minute of every day that we are given the gift of breath, we have an opportunity to bring transformation, to bring hope, to bring healing, to bring outcomes, to elevate people, to help people do what they do better, and to impact more lives. And there's a multiplying power when we think more in terms of paying it forward than we do of just paying it in our pocket. And that was a big change for me.
Wow, that's really deep. Wow, yeah, it just totally makes sense about making deposits and impacting people's lives in a positive way. So how did you die? I guess maybe I missed that.
Oh yeah, I actually didn't go into the gory details. It's really not that gory. I'll give you the backstory. After I worked full time in regular broadcast television, I left to start my own agency. And when I did, that's when things started to explode for me in terms of opportunities and travel and working with, big names and big entertainers and doing a lot of really cool projects. And I can honestly say that while I was living what most people would consider a dream life, I was turning into an absentee husband and an absentee father. I had married my high school sweetheart when we were very young, and we have 5 incredible kids that I'm madly in love with. And I was gone a lot. And it was sometimes in the swirl of activity when your world is spinning, even if it's a beautiful kind of spinning, it's easy to lose perspective. And it's easy to lose sight. In fact, I would say I was one of those people, like a lot of folks, that was seduced by the illusion of movement. That sometimes the idea of just going, and that, that validation in our own head that, oh, I'm so busy. And if I'm busy, I must be important. If I'm important, I must be loved. If I'm loved, I can love myself. There's a whole psychological trail that goes with this little nugget that says, if I'm busy, and I was busy, but I was just starting to recognize the price that my family was paying and I was paying. And I'd started thinking about a different model. And a friend of mine had approached me because he had produced a very successful series of documentaries and learned about the distribution model and targeting key markets for it. And he approached me about a documentary. I said, oh, that would be great because, you do a documentary, it can be a passion project, but there's a market for it. And guess what? After you pour yourself into the production and then the subsequent promotion, if you get a right distribution partner, you really walk out to the mail and get checks, revenue checks from royalties. And I thought, if I do that and pace myself out, I could start stepping into a different stream of income that would still honor my passion, do things that are meaningful, and maybe be around for my kids. So this was my first full documentary.
Yeah.
And we picked up a distributor in Nashville who reached out and said, look, we like your work. In fact, if you'll fly to Nashville, we'll sign up the papers for this and get the contracts together. And we want to give you a very large deposit check for the rights to distribute. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've hit the gold mine. This is going to be it. So I remember it was January 28th, 1999. And I hopped on a plane with my best buddy, Timothy Greenidge, who's really an incredible gospel singer. He was going to Nashville for some other business and performance stuff. And Timothy and I traveled a lot because we did a lot of shows with big names together. He was like also an audio engineer genius. And we get on the plane thinking, today, my life is going to change. Today, it's going to be different and better than I could ever have imagined. And I hopped in that plane in the window seat, looking out over the wings as we took off from Portland International Airport. And about 20 minutes in the flight, I started to feel strange. And I couldn't put my finger on it because I'm never, ever sick. Ever. But that morning, I felt a little queasy and actually felt a little tired. And it's almost as if things were closing in on me. And as it did, I remember for those of you who've flown, most of you, I'm sure, there's that little bag in the front seat in front of you. And I remember looking at that bag going, no, not the bag. No, not the bag. And I actually didn't get sick, but it got so weird and I couldn't put my finger on it. I turned to Timothy and I said, Timothy, something's not right. That's the last thing I said.
Oh, wow.
Before my eyes rolled back in my head, my arms flopped by my side, and my heart stopped.
Oh, wow.
Now, Timothy didn't know formal CPR, but he knew like chest compressions. And so as he described it to me, he began just hitting me in the chest and trying to get me to come to. And Timothy's a big guy. I mean, he could play in the NFL, just a giant guy. And I'll just say, have this leprechaunish Irish frame. So I'm sitting there like taking these hits from my best friend, Timothy, and nothing's happening. So he picks me up and he puts me in the aisle and he begins hitting my chest again and trying to do compressions. And as Timothy described it to me, he said he was just at the point that he was pulling back his fist and he's ready to break my ribs. And as he pulled back, I took a breath. Well, it ultimately resulted in a emergency landing, and I ended up in the cardiac wing back on the West Coast. And I was diagnosed with malignant neurocardiogenic syncope. So I don't have a bad heart. I didn't have a heart attack, anything like that. It's kind of like a cousin to feigning, except what happens is malignant means you can die from it. Neuro's brain, cardio's heart, and syncope means out of sync.
Oh.
And I have a syndrome that under the right circumstances, my brain gets confused and tells my heart to stop.
Oh, wow.
And it's bizarre. It's crazy. They found a way to test for it, and they don't know what causes it. But what they do, in fact, I have something right here, a little show and tell. They put this in your chest.
Oh, wow.
This was my first pacemaker.
Yeah.
And this little guy goes into monitor mode and it checks my heart rate. And if my heart rate goes below a certain threshold, it triggers it and races my heart back up to just above a normal rate. And then it pauses and makes sure I'm still breathing and it's working.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, it will kick in again.
Yeah.
And the thing is that still haven't figured it out, but I have my second pacemaker in my chest, and 6 times a day, my heart rate gets to a dangerous level that it needs to intervene.
Wow.
And here's the beautiful thing about it. Yes, does it work? I'm here talking to you. That's great. But here's the thing that's so important is that it means that since my death and after this episode, I go to bed every night thankful that I was given the gift of another day.
Yeah.
And it gives me that moment to reflect and say, did I use this day in a way, just in case, what if it were my last? Did I tell the people in my world that I love them? Did I give even that stranger respect and honor? And did I use my life, instead of just conducting a transaction, did I deliver some form of transformation in another life or a business or an organization? And I can take that breath and go to bed at night, knowing that if I die tonight, I will have fulfilled that purpose that is within me. And then when I get up in the morning, I go, oh my gosh, I've been given the gift of another day. How will I use this day? Will it be just to get my check boxes done, to get my tasks done, eat, go to the bathroom, do the laundry, whatever it is? Or will I have been given another privilege to be a transformational force in this world for one more day?
Hey everybody, Jess here. What if I could help your company find over $100,000 in hidden revenue streams in less than an hour without spending an extra dime on advertising or marketing? Reach out to me at cardzap.thebumpcard.me. Check out the video on 5 steps to profit, and also reach out and we can have a conversation. Thank you.
And that's how I get to start my day, with that thankfulness and anticipation, knowing that probably 6 times a day, this little guy's going to have to kick in because I'm on the verge of death.
Wow.
But here's the best part. When you live on that edge, your life is so rich. So rich. The idea that the things we take for granted, that you can take your next breath, is a gift that you get to use as a gift to others. And that's a game changer. It literally makes me giddy. Giddy. Is it something I treat with reverence? Absolutely. But it's not a downer. It is a springboard to a better life, a better business, a better family, whatever it is, a better you. And that's the game changer. And of course, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a theologian, anything like that. I'm a TV marketer. I'm a entertainment guy. I've lived in the world of helping people tell their stories and to do it well. And so I took what I've learned about life and I began digging really deep into my heart, my faith, my philosophy, my belief systems, and what I learned working with some of the biggest names in entertainment, some of the biggest companies in the world. And that's where I discovered the 7 disciplines, because that's where I realized there's a secret formula here that has been practiced for centuries, that not only the framework of good marketing, but they are a framework for creating a movement and creating real transformation in the world. So that's the story of my death. That's the springboard where we are.
Yeah, well, that's powerful. That story is very touching, and the realization of the daily reminder of what's important and staying focused on that is we definitely need to learn from that and apply that type of mindset. It's really powerful. I was gonna say the only thing I've had even close was I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years ago or 12 years ago, something like that. I only had one kid at the time, I think, and we were at the public zoo here in Minnesota, and one of the zoos, and a kid got pulled into the cougar cage.
Wow.
And I don't know. I didn't even think. I turned my kid around somehow. I knew not to let my kid see, and then I just sprinted and jumped the fence and got in there, and I was about maybe a foot from the kid and the cougar by the time, but the dad also was up there fighting, trying to get the kid back. It was like he threw his hand through the fence, and the fence apparently could flex a little bit enough where they set the kid up for a picture, and I think he made a step back or something, but just enough where the cougar could catch it with like 2 of its claws, and it pulled it in to the fence, and anyway, but I was just my kind of takeaway from jumping in there and trying to help was just like, wow, if I'm without even thinking, I'm willing to do this for my kid or for somebody else's kid, what would I do for my own kids? And that kind of has been I've kind of used that as a motivator for myself, kind of, that, when I want to make those phone calls, it's easier if I go, it's safe. It's much easier and safer than running after some wild cat or something, but, I mean, I know it's not anywhere close, but that's
big. That's big. You basically put your life on the line.
Yeah.
And it's a defining moment.
Yeah.
It's definitely a defining moment.
Yeah. It definitely made me it's like I knew myself better a little bit after that. I don't know if that makes sense or what I really want, my motivations, but anyway, yeah, I can't imagine, dying and then almost dying 6 times a day constantly. I mean, just wow. Anyway, I probably should get on to some other topic, but that was pretty powerful. So if somebody is trying to move their business forward, I know, and create some more revenue, is there maybe an example or two of a way you have done that in the past?
Well, it's funny. I just got off some client calls, and one of the things I think entrepreneurs tend to do is that they tend to be competitive. We have goals, and we've learned that there's all these mantras about taking action. Okay, we're going to take action, which is good because a lot of people don't take action. So the idea of taking action versus not is a good thing. The thing that's so important is what kind of action you take. And I was referencing, here in Portland, we live in the land of Nike. And I was working yesterday with one of the Nike pro athletes on a project. And the difference between being the winner and the loser, not just because you can run fast, but it's the foundation on which you run. Now, they would say certainly the shoe, and that's the other, but it's also the track. What's your foundation? For example, I could take a world-class athlete and we could put them on a track, set the clock and say, go, and watch them perform with brilliance and awe and wonder. Take the same athlete and put them on sand and make them say, go. and watch the difference in their performance. Would they still burn a lot of energy? Would they flail and do all the things? Would sand fly over? Absolutely. But would they get the outcomes that you'd get on a firm foundation?
Right.
No, you don't. And that's probably the biggest thing, and it's the first actually discipline of the 7 disciplines, is the idea of clarity on your mission, your purpose, your vision, your goals, where you're calling. See, the opposite of that is to be seduced by the illusion of movement. And to think that if I just go. In fact, when I was younger and I guess had less perspective, I used to say, I don't always know where I'm going, but I always make good time. And I think a lot of businesses do that. And so if I were to say tip number 1 is foundational, is follow this first discipline, and that is get clarity of the mission. In fact, what I have 2 things in my book I refer to, and if anybody's interested, they can go to 7drm.com, and I've got free downloads. If you don't buy the book or anything, you still get some of the worksheets that'll really help. The first one is really what I call your authentic purpose compass. And it's just a tool to really get clarity on the trajectory of where you are and where you really feel called to be, based upon 3 converging elements. One has to do with passion, and making sure that it's not a false passion. I refer to that in the book because a lot of us have false passions. And one of those passions, by the way, is to be loved. It's not a bad passion, but what happens is in our desire to be loved or accepted, and it's probably safe to say that all of us have experienced some level of rejection and some extreme levels of rejection. And sometimes that's by others, sometimes it's by ourselves, and imposter syndrome, or comparing ourselves with others. And that is so devastating that one of the things that a lot of people do is that they will pursue a passion that they believe will cause them to be loved. And in many cases, like we attach, look, if you're in business, again, you're in business. If you're in business, you're supposed to make a profit. You're supposed to make money. You're supposed to grow their organization. Those are prerequisites of what a typical business needs to do to at least stay functional and sustainable. Those are, I won't argue with those. But to the degree that how much money I make becomes a measure of how much I love myself, that's a tragic error that a lot of us made. I've made that, to believe I make more money. Now I'm more valuable. Therefore, others will love me. Therefore, I will love me.
Right.
And that is not an unworthy objective to be profitable, but it is a false passion if we're pursuing things really for the wrong motivations versus true passions. And so one of the exercises really has to do with clarity about what your real passions are. But the next thing has to do with an honest assessment of your aptitudes. Because there's a lot of people that I'm passionate about this and I'm passionate about that. And even if I have the right passion, okay, I'm going to do this, you have to test against your aptitude. And there are people that pursue passions for which they don't have aptitudes. And it takes them a while to realize that really a passion without aptitude really should be a hobby, not a business. And so when you get that clarity, that's powerful. But on the flip side, if you're one of those people that you're pursuing things for which you have aptitude, but you have no passion, really what you've done is just created a job for yourself.
Oh, right.
And so they go hand in hand, passion, aptitude. So when you get clarity about that for yourself, it's so foundational. And there's a third leg to that. And it really has to do with experience, because experience is the life that you've had so far tells a story. And each one will tell the story about aptitude, about passion. And when you converge those things together, you start to get a trajectory about what your real authentic purpose is and not a false purpose is. And that leads to the next thing. And that is, I encourage every business and every person to go to the exercise of building a mission manifesto. And that mission manifesto consists of these ingredients. First one is purpose. Ask the question, why am I here? And why do I have this business, or why do I have this organization? The next thing, and that's really important, there's exercises that I encourage you to go through that really gets past the surfacey stuff. Because most people, this is hard. It's not easy to do because it requires you to sometimes peel away layers that maybe you didn't even know. But when you do that, it's incredible. And the next thing is when you understand that purpose, then that leads to missions. And notice, Jess, I said missions, not mission.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations, they mix purpose and mission. And if you look at like military organizations, they might say, look, our objective, our purpose is to win the war or set these people free or bring democracy, whatever. Say that's our purpose. But to do that, they require multiple missions. What will be the mission here today? What will be the mission here tomorrow? And you can tell a mission in part because where a purpose is usually a life calling, a mission is something that you can say mission accomplished. Okay. Because it's a piece that you're using as a bridge to the fulfillment of your purpose. And in fact, I grew up Catholic, and so I was raised by Jesuits, and so we spent a lot of time looking about the life of Jesus. And of course, after a death experience, I'll say that if you weren't a little spiritual before, trust me, you'll get a little spiritual. Right. And one of the things that's fascinating about the life of Jesus is that if you actually break down his stuff, and I really do break it down even in my book, he had 26 missions. 26 missions. And so the idea of thinking, look, I need to do this. This is mission critical. This is mission critical. And we get confused or we dismiss it or reduce it to a task because we think I only need one mission. Look, you probably need a bunch of them. And then you need to prioritize them relative to the timing, the role they play, the prerequisite they play to the other one for the fulfillment of your purpose. That's critical. Then there's goals. What does that look like from setting goals? And I talk about the difference between aspirational goals versus achievable goals. And then I talk about values, which are foundational. We go through an exercise there. But the last element of your mission manifesto, and I encourage everybody to do this, is vision. And the term vision really means you can see it. A lot of people will put like a narrative, like a paragraph. We're going to eliminate, leg cramping in our lifetime or something like that. I'm not saying that's one of them. It's not one of mine, but but you say, what is our vision? And let me tell you, where vision is really good is think about when you were a little kid. And someone gave you a puzzle. I said, we put together a puzzle. And like life, it's more than a 500 piece or 1,000. It's usually like 5,000 piece puzzle. It's a big honking puzzle. Yep. But the first thing you do is you look at the cover. Yep. Because these pieces make sense. You still might not know everything, but the pieces make sense when you know what the cover looks like. Right. And what happens is most people do it backwards. They start accumulating pieces and then try to figure how I'm going to push them together to make it work. Or even worse, for me in the marketing area, and I'm, doing my early years in television, we sold advertising. Every television station is really in the business of selling advertising. Right. And guess what our salespeople said? Everybody needs a TV commercial. You got hemorrhoids, you need a TV commercial. Right. Selling cars, you need a TV commercial. You want to, it's like it all led to a TV commercial. And so what we want to do is not be distracted by all those people saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. You have to make a decision whether that piece of the puzzle fits in your puzzle. For this season. Yeah. And the only way you get that clarity is by getting vision of what the cover of the box looks like. And as a leader, whether you're leading yourself or you're leading a large organization, the more you can have absolute clarity about that vision, it not only brings everybody on the same page, but it removes distraction, because you can say that piece doesn't go in my puzzle. And you can say it lovingly and respectfully.
Yeah.
But also, when things come in, you can say, I know where that piece goes. I need that, and I know where that goes. And that's how great organizations are built.
Okay.
So it's not backwards. Grab the pieces, figure it out, get the picture, accumulate the pieces, make the puzzle, and do something profound.
Oh, wow. That's true. However, being a kind of a sales guy a little bit, I do have to say everybody does need a book and everybody does need a good LinkedIn profile. So no, I'm just teasing.
No, I don't disagree. I think there's real value in it. And I bow to you in your expertise in this area, because this is a very deliberate and practical tactic for people building a personal brand or people building an organizational brand. So feel free to go ahead and say that, because I know it's not for everybody, but for a lot of people, this is really practical.
Yeah. If you're an Instagram influencer, you probably don't need to be a LinkedIn influencer too, but it doesn't hurt, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, I just was being silly, but oh man, wow, that was great. About how you laid out the whole, puzzle, the picture, the imaging, having, being able to see where you want to go, and then being able to put the pieces in the right spot without as much struggle and trying to smash things together that don't fit. So Bill, before we go, can we remind us where to get your book, and where to find you online and reach out to you?
Well, following the incredible advice that you have, Jess, I am on LinkedIn, and I'm going to get better at posting more regularly. We're just so blessed with a lot of incredible projects and things we're doing with producing videos, producing a lot of virtual events. Our agencies producing tons of virtual events right now. And that's really exciting, because really virtual events are interactive internet television. A lot of people think, it's about sticking a picture up. We're taking all of our skills that we learned by directing the Black Eyed Peas and Gwen Stefani, all that. It doesn't mean we have to blow up everything and make it all big. It's taking the best of communication and turning it into an experience that's meaningful, engaging, and professional, and grows a brand. So we're doing a lot of virtual events, and then telling people's stories and doing that messaging. And so our agency right now, Spirit Media, is spiritmedia.com. If those are the kind of the tactical things that you feel that you need for your organization. As far as my book goes, I have it available on Amazon. So you can look up 7DRM on Amazon.com. And we do have the book, we have the Kindle, and we have the Audible. Or you could go simply to 7drm.com, because that'll have links to Amazon, but I also put some worksheets there. So if you're in a place where you say, I want to apply some of these things, it's just a way to help you facilitate that journey of getting clarity on your mission, clarity on your markets, clarity on your messaging, and clarity on the tactics that you need to use to be a more effective personal brander, personal business person, whatever it is you're called. Trust me, this works for, I've got clients, publicly traded clients. I've worked with some of the biggest businesses in the world and small businesses. Guess what? These disciplines all work. They really do.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure everybody go get his book. For me, I know it'll more likely be an Audible, because that's kind of how I've been rolling the last couple of years. I used to read all the time, and now I listen more than I read. So that's kind of crazy, but now we don't drive as much, so I have to, take time and make sure I listen, get my daily dose of knowledge and whatnot. So, but thank you everybody for listening today. We sure appreciate you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and make sure you go get Bill's book, and we will see you on the next show. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jess. Take care.